High on a hill overlooking Beechworth is the eerie old Beechworth Gaol. It's a living history lesson, starting with the front gates.
So Alan Kelly, Ned's mum, was captured, and when she was incarcerated here at the old Beechworth Gaol, the Kelly gang formed, and the government of the day were really fearful that the Kelly gang were going to break in and break her out. So they commissioned these gates. About a year and a half after Ned was actually hung, the gates were installed. So they didn't really do their job in the end.
A bit like waiting for you to do things around the house.
Must have cost a bit in those days.
They did. They were about a tenth of the value of the whole prison, so they're extraordinarily valuable and really significant in the context of the history of the site.
It's hard to describe the feeling once you get inside the jail. Spooky, scary, but fascinating.
So Alan was sentenced to 3 years hard labour, and when she was first incarcerated, she had a newborn baby, little baby Grace. And they constructed a door in the back of this cell so that she could take Grace out into the courtyard, if she was unsettled. And this cell then became the cell that all women that had children were put into in the colony of Victoria. Probably something that people aren't that aware of was that there were men and women in this jail and children. Boys as young as 11 and girls as young as 13 could be put in here.
Gee. Still tiny though.
Yeah, it is.
No thanks.
And the frightening relics of a bygone era continue.
So the executioner would stand here, the prisoner would be there, and they'd eyeball to eyeball basically, and then pull it. So the executioner was a prisoner.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was one of your jobs. They'd actually sell tickets to local business and church leaders in the town, and they'd sit down the bottom there.
And that prisoner that was selected to pull that, what if he'd made friends with that?
Yeah.
But there's no surprise where the fascination of most tour groups lies. It's Ned and his gang.
So Joe Byrne, this was his armour. He was petrified of getting shot through the eyes, so he'd designed his armour to close in that eye area. During the Glenrowan siege, he took off the lower plate and ended up getting shot through the groin and bled out. After the police got into the Anne Jones Inn, they found the bodies of Dan Kelly and Steve Hart, and then Ned obviously came out all guns blazing and took the police on.
Ned was actually quite tall for a man in that era.
Yeah, he definitely was, and these are to
height.
scale, yeah. The plan with the armour was foolhardy. I mean, just to demonstrate it, that helmet is 1/3 of the actual weight.
Oh.
And
gee, that's heavy, isn't it? That's only 1/3.
Yeah, and then they had the rest of the armour as well to deal with as well.
So, move.
Yeah, and ultimately, that's what was Ned's undoing.
It's kind of spooky to see things as perhaps Ned would have, just through this very, very heavy piece of armour. It was an eerie feeling, and the most eerie part for me was Ned Kelly's cell. Just, I've read a lot about Ned, and I'm interested in the history of Ned Kelly and the Kelly gang, but to actually be in the room where Ned was put with all the shotgun pellets in his legs after Glenrowan it was eerie. So he would have been in a lot of pain.
He would have been, yeah, and he had his committal hearing here in Beechworth, so each day of the committal hearing he'd have to walk across the road or be taken across to the courthouse.
Gee, in those days, no toilet, no sink, there would have been, buckets?
Yeah, 3 buckets in here, so there was one for fresh water for drinking, one for washing and obviously one for waste. There was no heating, there was no lights. It was basically just the bed, blankets and their daily feed. So, and the prisoners back then would spend 12 hours a day in the cell and 12 hours out.
A passionate team of very well-informed staff and tour guides really brings this place back to life. It's well worth a look around.